because we want to have a productive debate here. The reality is this.
Makes it less likely for people to shoot things they are not aiming at.
This is the last day before the district work period.
And you can fire your Congress critter, but you cannot fire these unelected bureaucrats.
We are taking action. We are getting things done, and we are trying to save lives.
And said he supports a ban on the sale of assault weapons, which there's no such thing.
That's why I am proud to join these efforts to protect gun owners across this great
ATF's intent. All right, buckle up because things are heating up in the legal arena. The ATF, that's the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, just dropped a shocker. They're not messing around anymore. Nope, they're going all in, guns blazing, or should I say, regulations blazing. Here's the scoop. They've decided to take the Vanderstock frames and receivers case straight to the big leagues, the Supreme Court. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, let me break it down for you. The Vanderstock case is like the heavyweight championship of the Second Amendment world. It's all about those crucial bits and bobs that make up your firearms, the frames and receivers. And the ATF wants to duke it out with the highest court in the land over whether their rules on these parts pass constitutional muster.
This is going to be a $1.9 billion hit to the firearms industry.
But DC bureaucrats have used this agency to infringe on the rights of the American people.
And it has one magazine. So after 30 rounds, I'm done.
By now instituting this 120-day rule.
Tearing apart families and making our streets less safe.
Congress is we all represent districts from across the country and we have debate, and I think that's very positive.
Because we want to have a productive debate here. The reality is this.
This move is like turning up the volume to 11 in a legal rock concert. It's a bold statement, a declaration that they're not backing down. They're ready to put their arguments to the ultimate test right in front of the Supreme Court justices. This decision signals a major escalation in what's already been a fierce battle. It's like the legal equivalent of bringing out the big guns. The ATF isn't content with just skirmishing in lower courts. They want a showdown at the OK Corral of Justice. So get ready for some legal fireworks because things are about to get real interesting. The Vanderstock case is headed for the highest court in the land, and you can bet it's going to be a wild ride. Will the ATF come out on top? Or will the Second Amendment warriors prevail? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, this is one legal showdown you won't want to miss. Fifth Circuit's partial upholding. Let me paint a picture of what went down in the Fifth Circuit recently. The judges are gathered, the arguments are flying, and the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. In the ring is the Vanderstock case, and boy is it putting on a show. Now, what happened in the Fifth Circuit, those are the bigwigs overseeing the lower courts in certain states. They had to make a call on this case, and let me tell you, it wasn't an easy one. They had to do some serious soul-searching. The Fifth Circuit didn't just give a thumbs up or thumbs down to the lower court's ruling. They're all about the shades of gray. They decided to do a bit of both. Yeah, you heard me right. A little bit of this and a little bit of that. On one hand, they said, hey, lower court, you got some things right. They affirmed certain aspects of the lower court's decision. It's like giving them a pat on the back and saying, good job, keep it up. But then, just when you think it's all smooth sailing, they drop the shocker.
I get it. My Republican friends are going to complain about the process.
$1.9 billion to law-abiding citizens.
Our right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I yield back.
Not only has it been completely blown out of proportion.
This is the last day before the district work period.
And every conservative in this Congress to stand with Representative Clyde and his legislation and to stand with me.
There's a hearing that you can't be at, your counsel can't be present, you haven't been charged with the crime.
They also vacated certain portions of the ruling. Translation? They basically said, hold your horses, we're not entirely on board with everything here. It's like taking one step forward and two steps back. And there you have it, a mixed bag of a decision from the Fifth Circuit. It's like trying to untangle a knot. You make progress in some areas, but there's still plenty of mess to sort out. So, while it's not a clear-cut victory or defeat, one thing's for sure, this case is far from over, and the legal drama is just getting started. Limited options for ATF. Alright, let's talk strategy because the ATF is in a bit of a pickle. They've just received the Fifth Circuit's decision on the Vanderstock case, and it's not exactly a clear win. It's more like a mixed bag of results, leaving them scratching their heads and wondering what to do next. Here's the deal. The Fifth Circuit didn't just rubber stamp the lower court's ruling. They went through it with a fine-tooth comb, affirming some parts while giving the old vacate and remand treatment to others. Translation? It's a bit of a mixed bag. Some wins, some losses, and a whole lot of uncertainty thrown into the mix. Now, the ATF finds themselves at a crossroads. They've got a couple of options on the table, but none of them are exactly a walk in the park. First up, they could try their luck with an appeal within the Fifth Circuit. But here's the thing, that might not be their best bet. The Fifth Circuit has already shown their cards, and they're not exactly handing out free passes to the ATF. So what's the alternative? Well, there's always the Supreme Court. Yup, the big kahuna of the legal world. But here's the catch. Getting the Supreme Court to hear your case is like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. It's tough, it's unpredictable, and there are no guarantees. But hey, desperate times call for desperate measures, right? And let's face it.
And now the ATF, under the guidance of this administration, is coming to take away.
So basically it's saying if there hasn't been something like this done in all of our history, then it can't be imposed, right?
Under any administration, would become an ally. It needs to go. We need to abolish.
As a duly elected official and a gun owner myself.
And this majority is going to try to do every single thing we possibly can to stop it.
My speech is well beyond the 2 minutes that I'm allotted, so I'm just going to dispense with the notes, really.
We are taking action. We are getting things done, and we are trying to save lives.
At the firearm industry. That is all this is and nothing more.
I don't know whether we will succeed, but we are going to try.
The ATF is feeling the pressure. They're backed into a corner and they need to make a move, and fast. Supreme Court's 5-4 emergency stay. Alright, let's talk about the ultimate plot twist in this legal saga. The Supreme Court's dramatic entrance with a 5-4 emergency stay, throwing a curveball right into the heart of the action. The lower court's judgment is on the verge of being enforced. Tensions are running high, and just when you think you've got it all figured out, bam! The Supreme Court swoops in to shake things up. With a slim majority of 5-4, the Supreme Court made a bold move by siding with the ATF and slamming the brakes on the lower court's judgment. It's like hitting the pause button on a roller coaster ride. Just when you're about to plunge into the unknown depths, everything comes to a screeching halt. Now, you might be wondering, what does this mean for our intrepid protagonists, the ATF? Well, let me tell you, it's both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, the emergency stay buys them some precious time, giving them a much-needed breather to regroup and strategize. But on the other hand, it adds a whole new layer of complexity to an already tangled web of legal proceedings. See, the thing about emergency stays is that they're like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. Sure, they stop the bleeding for now, but they don't fix the underlying problem. And in this case, that problem is the looming threat of the lower court's judgment hanging over the ATF's head like the sword of Damocles. So while the emergency stay might provide temporary relief for the ATF,
contrast that with what Republicans did to address gun violence and crime the last time they were in charge.
The impulsive leaders at ATF have once again failed to apply simple logic and reason to their decision-making.
Their answer to gun violence is more guns. And if that's not enough, even more guns.
Which changes now we have an administration that is desperate to erode our Second Amendment rights.
For God's sake, America already has more guns than people. How many guns do we need until everybody is safe?
And believe me, this rule has nothing to do with gun safety. This has nothing to do with making communities safer.
We're here because gun violence is destroying communities.
It also throws a wrench into their plans, forcing them to navigate through even murkier waters than before. It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. Challenging, to say the least. But hey, that's the name of the game in the world of legal drama. With the Supreme Court's emergency stay in play, the stakes are higher than ever, and the outcome is anyone's guess. Will the ATF emerge victorious in the end, or will they be left licking their wounds? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, the the Supreme Court's intervention has turned this legal thriller into a nail-biting cliffhanger. Judge O'Connor's order. So imagine you're Judge O'Connor, sitting in your courtroom, trying to make sense of all the legal wrangling going on around you. You've got the ATF on one side, the Fifth Circuit's decision on the other, and a whole lot of uncertainty hanging in the air. What's a judge to do? Well, if you're Judge O'Connor, you cut through the noise and get straight to the point. That's right, folks. Judge O'Connor didn't mince words when he ordered the ATF to provide a status report pronto. He wanted to know exactly what the ATF's game plan was in this whole Vanderstock frames and receivers case. Are they going to take it to the Supreme Court? Are they going to throw in the towel and call it a day?
There are many areas, as you might imagine, especially when you're dealing with firearms, where we just don't know.
Law-abiding citizens, felons.
Democrats actually passed the Safer Communities Act.
Special order. Thank you so much for highlighting what's going on here.
The ATF before they abolish our Second Amendment rights. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
The first piece of major gun safety legislation in decades, and we sent it to President Biden's desk.
So I thought that was very interesting that now we have an unelected swamp creature, a bureaucrat, who thinks that they can now make felons.
There's a hearing that you can't be at, your counsel can't be present, you haven't been charged with the crime.
Well, Judge O'Connor wanted answers, and he wanted them fast. So he slapped a deadline on the ATF, February 7th to be exact. That's the day they've got to spill the beans and let the court know if they're planning to petition for review with the big dogs up at the Supreme Court. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Judge O'Connor wanted clarity, and he wanted it yesterday. Now you might be wondering, why all the fuss? Well, let me tell you, it's all about keeping the wheels of justice turning smoothly. See, when you've got a case as big and as important as this one, you can't afford to have any loose ends flapping in the breeze. Judge O'Connor knew that, and that's why he laid down the law and demanded answers. That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.